And welcome to Community Chat on 103.1 KSCW. Your host here, Gary Cohen, and our guest today, Joan Campbell, Community Affairs Coordinator for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Welcome back, Joan. Well, a lot of people are getting back on the road. This summer is a lot different than last year, and there's a lot of things that you'd like to point out to people to get ready before they go and while they're on the road or in an airplane. So let's start on the home front. What do people really need to keep in mind to make sure their homes are secure while they're away?
Absolutely. One of the first things that people should be making sure they have taken care of is their mail being picked up. If you're going to be gone a week, 2 weeks, or if you're a snowbird and you're gone a long time, of course, you don't want to have your mail stacked up in a mailbox. There still is a problem with people opening up our mailboxes and taking our mail. So that would be one thing, making sure all of our windows are locked and secured, and not having our newspapers or flyers stacked up on our front door. You're very lucky in the Sun City West area to have the Posse, because they have that wonderful service where they can check your home and pick up papers. It's a really a nice benefit that you have. But those are some of the more common, and we should do that all the time. We should always pick up our mail and make sure that our windows are locked.
And of course, with all the traffic that's out there on the internet, keep an eye on what you're posting out there. Do you really want to be advertising the fact that you are away?
Oh, well, exactly. Because if we're posting while we're there, that just lets everyone know that we're not at home. And hopefully everyone's social media is set on private, but if it's not, that means anyone can find out where you live.
And of course, when you're on the road, if you're renting a vehicle, pretty good idea to take a photo of the vehicle just in case it's unfortunately lifted from you.
Yes, I can't imagine the duress that somebody would be under if their car was stolen or broken into. But if it was stolen and you're upset and you're calling the police, they're immediately going to want to know the year, the make, the model, and your license plate. And if you have a photo of your car and even a rental car, who pays attention to the license plate on a rental car? So it'd be good to have those in case something did happen.
And when you're actually in a hotel room, my wife and I were in a hotel in El Paso, Texas 2 years ago, and in the middle of the night, I heard a sound. I look up. Someone was trying to get into the room, and it was the door stopper that stopped them. In addition to that, we actually put a chair up against the door. It's really important to fortify your own space, even when you're on vacation.
That must have been terrifying. I cannot imagine being in a hotel room having someone try to get in. But I'm so glad you shared that story, because on YouTube there are videos that show how to breach a hotel door room, and it can be done. So what I suggest is that people go to the dollar store and buy that little plastic wedge, the little door stopper, costs a whole $1. It's made of plastic, and put that under the door, because that's one more layer of protection. But the chair is also a good idea. I've seen videos that they say to put glasses, like set up some glasses by the door if someone wants to bang into it, all the noise. But then make sure all the doors and windows on your hotel room are locked. The person before didn't leave them unlocked. But I'm sorry to have that you went through that, but you were smart to have the chair there.
We always do that. And as it turned out, amazingly, how that person was trying to get in, they had gotten their hands on the actual card that opens all the doors.
Oh, no.
You know, the cleaning crews can get into all the doors. So somehow a person who had all kinds of ill will got their hands on this master card and could have gone down the entire hallway trying on doors. It just so happened that it was a light night's sleep and we heard the sound, but it was the doorstop that actually stopped them. So you've really got to be aware of what's going on.
You do, and there are so many helpful suggestions on being safe in a hotel. Everything from, like you said, make sure the door is secure. If you get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning from the front desk saying they need your credit card number because it didn't go through, that's a scam. If you have a flyer in your room saying, call us for pizza delivery, and you call, they're just trying to get your credit card. So there are some things. Another really helpful tip for hotel safety is to get a business card from the hotel you're staying in. Because if you were to get separated or lost and you needed to navigate your way back, you may not know. A lady told me that she went on a group tour to another country, and they checked their hotel, and then they went out to eat. And then the group wanted to go somewhere else, and she didn't. So she was walking back to her hotel room, tripped, fell, and ended up in the hospital. But when they released her, she had no idea where she was staying.
Wow. What about safest floors in a hotel? You have some ideas regarding what might be best for you.
You have to know your own self. For example, I am not too quick getting downstairs anymore. So if there was an emergency in a hotel, are you able to navigate several floors of stairs? And also, if there was an emergency and you had to get rescued from your room, the ladders on a fire truck only go so many floors up. So they suggest, rooms 3 on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th floor are nice because they're not too low where somebody could maybe come through the first floor door or window, but it's not so high that it would be hard to get out of in an emergency.
I know I'm very careful when we get a room that if I notice that it's at the end of a hallway and it's not where the stairway is, I don't want to be too far from an elevator. I don't want to be too far from the stairs.
It's good thinking. And a man told me this suggestion. I had never thought of this. He said that when he and his wife travel, they put their purse and their wallet on top of their shoes, because if there was an emergency, they would go to get their shoes on and not forget anything they wanted to take.
You are listening to Community Chat on 103.1 KCW. Your host here, Gary Cohen. Our guest today, Joan Campbell, Community Affairs Coordinator for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. When you're out there sightseeing, big city, small city, what do you need to keep in mind? There's a lot of people out there who would only be too happy to relieve yourself of something very valuable.
That's a good way to put it. I look at the pickpockets as if they're criminal magicians because they have a way of getting our items. This is probably the most important safety tip of all, is that we are most at risk in 2 ways: our items left in our vehicle and being pickpocketed. And that could be anywhere. So, for example, I have a friend that worked for the Las Vegas PD, and she said the 2 places tourists were most vulnerable was, one, when you're driving to Vegas, there's a big sign that people stop to take their picture in front of, and burglars just wait in the parking lot because people get out of their car, they leave all of their stuff in the car just to take their phone for a photograph. So the burglars know that's a perfect opportunity to break into their car. And the other one, and this is on the Las Vegas PD website, when we are watching street performers, we are distracted. So if we want our picture taken with someone dressed up as Wonder Woman or Superman or Elmo, they could be working in teams. So while you drop your backpack or you're holding up your phone to get a picture taken, it's a very vulnerable time because we're not paying attention to our pockets. So if you're going to watch a street performance, think about keeping your items maybe in your front pocket, your valuable items in a money belt, because we're vulnerable. And the same thing with ATMs. With, cash is kind of going out of style, I guess. It seems like we're going to more cashless. But bad guys will watch people at an ATM and follow them. A man told me he and another teacher, there were teachers, they went to Europe with students, and the lady took out a large amount of cash, and before they got to the hotel room, someone had pickpocketed her for it.
And, of course, the level of safety when you're not in our country. You're in a country where it's a language you don't speak. You need to stay with your guide. Don't try to go off on your own unless you really know where you're going.
Yes, exactly. And then also know the phone number for emergencies in that country. 911 is ours, but that's not true in other countries. And another good thing to do is know where the embassy is in the country you're at. A friend of mine went to Europe. She put her backpack under her seat. They took it. She lost everything. Everything for the entire trip was gone. But how hard would it be to navigate finding the embassy when you're under duress?
I also, my wife and I took a trip overseas early last year before the pandemic hit, and we visited France. I actually took the time to learn some really important phraseology in French, emergency questions. I think it really helps if you know even a little bit of the language of the country you're going to visit, especially in an emergency situation, no?
That's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a great idea.
Little bit important stuff, even how to get to the police, how you can communicate that you're in trouble. Even if you have, heaven forbid, a health issue that you're in another country, and how do I communicate to these people that I need help? I think it's great to think about doing that. About wallets and whatnot, what do you think about the use of hotel safes? Are they really okay to use, or would you leave something really valuable behind?
The hotel industry obviously says yes, absolutely. The hotel safe is a good idea. They also have at the lobby, you can leave your items with the front desk too. It depends. There are things you can do. For example, there's a product that I've heard of that is called, I think, a Flex Safe, and it is, you can't use a knife to get into it. It's supposed to be protective, and you can attach it to a bar in your room so you could put all your documents. So I think it might be helpful to research some of the safety items that are out there before you travel if you're worried. Hopefully you leave all your valuables at home, your expensive jewelry, and all you take is your money wallet, your money belt, and what you have to have.
I'd like to trail us back to airports. When you're leaving your stuff in the bins, when you're going through security, you're flustered. You're keeping an eye on so many different things. You could actually forget some important stuff, including that boarding pass and maybe even your passport.
Very important. That's true. And I was recently at the airport here in Phoenix, and I asked 2 different TSA agents, what would be your safety suggestion for the public? And both of them said the same thing. They said, it's for the men. Tell the guys that when they go through the checkpoint to bring a bag to put their wallet, their phone, their keys, their items in. Because what they said they do is they go to the bin and they will throw all of their things in independently, including big wads of cash. And then that goes right through the machine. And then at the other end, they said they've had situations where people have picked things up or even accidentally picked up the wrong phone. So they said if people would just bag it and not have it so available. And the boarding passes, there's a QR code on every boarding pass if you have a paper one. And if you have the app on your phone, anybody could scan that QR code. And what that would provide them is your name, your address, your frequent flyers, a lot of your phone number, information about you. So it's very important that if you use a paper boarding pass that you destroy it. Don't throw it in the trash. Don't leave it in your hotel room. Don't leave it on the plane. Make sure you shred it up so nobody can get that QR code.
If you're taking certain medical devices with you, you absolutely have to. Do you recommend people getting an actual medical note so they're not taken away from you at the TSA?
I don't know if TSA would take a medical device, but it's really smart. It's a really good point about taking maybe a summary of your medical records on your trip and a copy of your prescriptions, including the generic name for the prescription, because what we might call it here might have a different name in another country. So just having that information, if you weren't able to share with the doctor your medical history, it'd be wonderful for them to have a list of that.
I would like to ask you, the floor is yours. Any further advice for our community?
I think the most important thing is to take a little bit of time on the front end and prepare to make sure you have a copy of your passport, driver's license, credit card, including the back with the phone number of who you'd call, and your itinerary. And you can either take that copy with you, you could leave it with family or friends, you could email it to yourself, you could put it on a flash drive. But in the event when these sneaky criminals get your personal property, you would have a way of contacting your credit card, going to the embassy and getting a new passport. So that would be the main thing. Get your travel checklist and just be prepared, because then you can relax and have a great time.
You have been listening to Community Chat on 103.1 KSCW. Your host here, Gary Cohen, and our guest, Joan Campbell, Community Affairs Coordinator for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Joan, thank you as always, and we look forward to seeing you next.